Joe's a little worried. All right. Right here. That's all I carry. So you ask any firefighter, and we have some of them in the audience today, and he or she will tell you that the Halligan bar, this, is an indispensable tool when they're on the job. Indispensable. It was designed by firefighter Hugh Halligan. This multi-purpose tool allows firefighters to safely and effectively perform their job. Whether you're using it to pry open a door, lift open a skylight, or heal a ladder, it's both foundationally and fundamentally transformative to the firefighters who use it. Bill, grab this. So Bill's volunteered to hold it straight out for the remainder of my speech. It's heavy. It's a real tool. So it was developed in the 1940s. The Halligan replaced other equipment that had appeared useful on paper, but proven dangerous in practice. Because someone who knew the business had designed it, the Halligan offered maximum efficiency, speed, and safety. The right tool drove radical changes in performance and outcome. So we have many examples of how ALPA provides the right tools for its members based on 8 decades of experience. Under this union's strategic plan, these tools have made possible remarkable results in collective bargaining, aviation safety, security, and pilot assistance, and in building a strong future for our profession. So since this executive board last met in September, much has changed in the political landscape in Washington and in Canada, up in Ottawa. We look forward to working with the Trump administration and with the Trudeau administration on what we believe to be our shared goals of fostering a safe, secure, and efficient air transportation system. At the same time, let's be clear, for ALPA, really nothing's changed. Our commitments to collective bargaining, safety, security, and pilot assistance, and to the future of the profession are as resolute today as at any time in our 85 years. In this shifting global and national political context, I believe that the direction given by our union, by its founders, for ALPA to represent all airline pilots in the United States and Canada is also the most promising formula for success of the U.S. and Canadian pilots as individuals. To this end, we're providing tools and expertise to colleagues across the piloting community. The Allied Pilot Association Legislative Affairs Deputy Chairman, First Officer Jonathan Benton, along with APA board members Captain Peter Gamble, who's the Boston Domicile Chairman, and Captain Billy Ray Reed, the Miami Domicile Chairman, are here with us today. The president of the APA, Captain Dan Carey, was going to attend, but he blew out his Achilles tendon, so he's recovering. Please join me in thanking them for being here today. ALPA and APA are expanding our long relationship through a new services agreement that will give them access to our outstanding economic and financial analysis team. At the same time, and in the same theme, the Air Canada Pilots Association unanimously passed a resolution in early April, establishing a task force to evaluate options for merging with ALPA. So the ACPA MEC Chairman, Captain Kevin Vaillant, who isn't quite here yet, and Captain Gary Russell, an ACPA MEC member and Chairman of the External Affairs Committee, are with us today. Please join me in thanking them for being here today. So to Kevin and Gary in his stead, I am honored to have been invited to meet with the ACPA MEC this summer, and I will be attending. Thank you. As part of a global pilot community, ALPA pilots will also participate in the 72nd IF-ALPA conference in Montreal next week to work with pilots across the globe to advance our mutual goals. More good news. On April 20th, ALPA filed cards for an election at WestJet. As you know, we've been working with the pilots there, and we feel very, very positive about their desire to join ALPA. Voting will begin soon, although we don't know exactly when. Please join me in welcoming First Officer Tim Perry, a member and leader of the WestJet Organizing Committee, who is with us here today. Tim. So as everybody in this room knows, and it's not a mystery, bargaining a strong contract begins with a foundation of a strong airline, a pattern upon which to bargain, and strong pilot group unity. Well, right now, we have all three elements in alignment at many of our carriers, in both the United States and Canada. Examples, and most predominantly so, include a recent strong ratification of a new high watermark in many areas of the Delta and United contract. This alignment creates a key opportunity that may, or let's be clear, may not last. For example, in the United States, the composition and therefore the orientation of the National Mediation Board is uncertain. This and other factors could cause a future shift in the landscape. As a result, ALPA is keenly focused on achieving progress at the table right now. Each of our MEC chairmen, as we've done in the past, will be giving us a full report, but I'd like to provide you with a few highlights of our collective bargaining efforts. For example, the recent contract at Hawaiian contains one of the largest percentage pay increases in ALPA history. It was ratified by 76%. While the contract gains are important to the Hawaiian pilots, the agreement also strengthens a pattern that will benefit other pilot groups currently in contract talks. The continuation of this pattern means that Alaska and Virgin, Frontier, JetBlue, and Spirit are in stronger positions today than they were before the Hawaiian contract. And like Hawaiian, these airlines are earning strong profits as a result of their pilots' dedication. ALPA is alerting investors to the risks created by companies dragging their feet at the bargaining table. Delay means lost growth opportunities. We know that, the company knows that, the shareholders know that, and ALPA pilots are using it to our advantage. Following this progress, we remain dedicated to making sure that those pilot groups still fighting for a fair contract receive ALPA's full range of resources. We rely both on traditional approaches and also think outside of the box to find solutions that protect our members' careers beyond their current position. At Air Wisconsin, the Sunrise or Sunset campaign is ended with Sunrise. The airlines entered into an extended capacity purchase agreement with United Airlines. As a result, the federal mediator overseeing these negotiations at Air Wisconsin has directed management to resume bargaining this summer with the goal of expeditiously completing the talks. The signs are also positive at Air Transport International. Management has brought back its furloughed pilots and is now placing new aircraft into operation while hiring pilots. In fact, ATI just secured an additional 6 Boeing 767-300 freighters for operation within the Amazon system. Management's talking with us every month, and improvements, yep, they're on the horizon. At Canada North, these pilots recently ratified a 5-year deal that includes pay rate increases. The contract also contains triggers that allow for wage increases in each of the final years of the agreement. Recent news by the announcement of the parent company Bearskin Airlines that they will merge with Perimeter Aviation. Okay, so we've all been through this, and it poses challenge and opportunities for ALPA members. We are working with Bearskin MEC to identify the most promising strategies to advance our pilots' interests in this merger. Pilots at Endeavor are also in talks. One aspect of the negotiations is a very promising effort to convert one-time bonuses, which we have proliferating across our fee for departure world, but to convert those into long-term pay rate improvements. If we're successful, this will be a significant step to reinforcing ALPA's position that permanent pay increases benefit improvements, and career progressions are what's needed to attract and retain pilots. That's the answer. Last week, I joined more than 270 Frontier pilots in that group's first informational picking event. It was really a great turnout, and it was a great effort. The event was led by Captain Tracy Smith, the Frontier MEC chairman, and we picketed right outside Frontier's airline offices in Denver. The news media was out in full force, and we called on Frontier to honor an agreement it signed in 2011 when pilots sacrificed to help the carrier stay out of its second bankruptcy. 6 years later, Frontier is one of the most profitable U.S. airlines, and yet its crews are the lowest paid in the sector. It's not an insult, Tracy. It's just a fact, and it's got to be fixed. JetBlue pilots continue their hard work to bargaining their first contract. As we've known from the start, this is a long-haul effort that will require ALPA's trademark determination. The pilot group is unified in its resolve, and the parties are working productively towards real improvement in the four cornerstone areas. Even before an agreement is in place, we have made progress, and we've developed a successful grievance arbitration process that has generated positive results for our JetBlue members. Meanwhile, at a difficult situation, the pilots of Mesa have filed for mediation after 6 years with talks with management. I didn't misspeak there. 6 years. In fact, it was ALPA President John Prater who signed the initial Section 6 letter. The MEC is showing some initiative, though, and they're conducting informational picketing. They just conducted information picketing in Dallas recently. Once again, that's the unity of the ALPA members being shown on display. Spirit continues their fight for a fair contract as well. While more than 3/4 of the agreement has been signed off, pilot compensation still lags industry standards despite the company's historic profits. The pilots have been in talks with management with assistance from the NMB for the last 6 months. More than 200 pilots, along with other ALPA members, picketed the company's headquarters in this last December. It was a great show, Stuart. Alaska Airlines and Virgin America pilot leaders remain firm in holding to their strategic plan. They're moving ahead with wrapping up the joint contract talks this summer. Then they'll begin with seniority integration process. Direct bargaining with the company has been, let's just say, unproductive, okay? I'll try and be nice. Unproductive. So the pilots have insisted that the private mediator be brought into the process earlier than required under the TPA. The pilots expect the company to recognize, this isn't tough. We expect them to recognize the role that they play in the success of this airline as it becomes the 5th largest airline in the country. Mediation begins next month. The Alaska Airlines and Virgin America pilots are launching a social media campaign as a direct request from Chris and Joe, who couldn't be here today. They're asking each of you to use your communications team and your communications assets to amplify and retweet their social media efforts. So the tools that ALPA provides its members at the bargaining table are matched only by those we use to advance our pilots' ability to compete internationally, as well as their safety, security, and pilot assistance goals. Case in point is our adamant defense of the current safety-based minimum first officer experience, qualification, and training requirements. Since the passage of the Airline Safety and FAA Extension Act in 2010, there have been no passenger fatalities due to an accident in U.S. FAR Part 121 airline operations. But that's not stopping the special interest groups who are focused on profit. Yes, profit, not safety. They want to weaken the standards using false claim that these safety rules are causing a pilot shortage. Total bunk. Regional airlines use this as an excuse when they cut service to rural communities for economic reasons. As ALPA has underscored in news outlets from Sioux Falls to Kansas City, U.S. airlines determine whether they will fly to a rural community, or to any community for that matter, based on whether they will make money. That's how they decide where they're going to fly. ALPA will defend against any action that could erode safety standards, any action. In the United States, we'll head off any efforts to introduce unrelated issues into the Congress when it begins its process for the FAA reauthorization, which expires on September 30th of this year. On the same issue, pilot supply, we're extremely disappointed with the working group on improving air service to small communities, which was begun by Congress in the 2016 FAA reauthorization and initiated by the Obama DOT. Given this group's charge, which was to make recommendations to improve air service to small communities, it has totally dismissed, a data-driven approach and ignored the fact that no relationship exists between safety and pilot availability. We know that pilots seek out airlines that provide pay, benefits, quality of life, and a future career. ALPA will be sending a letter to Secretary Chow along with a strong dissenting opinion to counter that working group's recommendations. On a similar safety note, our nations can't wait for an accident to happen before we do more to safeguard our air transportation system against unsafe and unsecure operations of unmanned aircraft systems. Safety and security is always paramount, and whenever UASs are in the airspace, even more so. ALPA is hosting the next meeting of the Drone Advisory Committee on May 3rd, right in this very room, and we will continue to advocate our firm position. The safe transport of people and cargo is also being challenged by undeclared hazardous goods. So let me say it one more time, undeclared hazardous goods. In 2015, our industry experienced approximately 1,200 hazardous material incidents, with half of them involving undeclared hazardous goods. No one knew it was hazardous goods in the box when we had the incident. Many of those incidents involved undeclared shipments of lithium batteries. ALPA has launched an initiative calling for public education about materials that can be shipped by air. We're also calling for random inspection of packages and increased penalties for shippers that violate shipping requirements. Up north in Canada, we will continue to press for the implementation timeline for all new flight and duty time regulations to be no more than 1 year for all professional pilots in Canada. In the security arena, ALPA held an aviation security conference on March 29th in Washington, D.C. During the conference, I called on President Trump and Congress to exempt aviation safety and security regulations from the administration's 2-for-1 executive order. We had good news coverage of the event. In Politico and elsewhere, they reported ALPA's position that when it comes to aviation safety and security, we should never apply a cookie-cutter approach or a policy. And we won't tolerate as an organization the needed regulations that advance our safety and security being sidelined because of this order. In early March, Captain Wolfgang Koch and I, ALPA's aviation security chairman, and I met with the acting TSA administrator, Gawadia, to brief her on ALPA's security priorities. We were honored to have her address our aviation security conference later in that same month. She affirmed her commitment to many of our initiatives, including known crew member. Dr. Gawadia supports the program, strongly supports the program, but she asks us to reinforce the need for strict compliance with our members. So I'm asking you and urging you to spread the word among your pilot groups about compliance with the known crew member provisions. On another security issue, we're also tracking the Department of Homeland Security's directive to enhance procedures for passengers at last point of departure airports on flights to the United States. It's important that these actions be coordinated with other stakeholders so that we can avoid unintended consequences. In the area of pilot assistance, we have a packed agenda for ALPA's Pilot Assistance Conference that will take place here in Herndon on May 23 and 24, and Joe will have more to report to you about the impressive speaker lineup. Based on President Trump's focus on U.S. workers, ALPA continues to press the administration to ensure that U.S. airlines and U.S. aviation workers are able to fairly compete in the international marketplace by enforcing our trade agreements. ALPA, along with our allies in the Partnership for Open and Fair Skies, recently ran an open letter to President Trump in the New York Times, reminding him of his campaign promise to protect American jobs against foreign interests. With this same goal, ALPA will continue its efforts to halt any and all flag of convenience business models in the North American airline industry. Some news here. I'm pleased to report that legislation will be introduced today in the U.S. House of Representatives to stop the proliferation of flag of convenience business models to the United States. We strongly advocate for swift action on this bill in Congress, along with our partners at APA and the Association of Flight Attendants, AFL-CIO Transportation Trades Department. We will need action. We will need action from every pilot in the United States. I urge you to participate in the call to action that will be posted on ALPA's website later today once the bill has been introduced. In February, Captain Todd Insler and Captain Bill Bartels joined me for a news media teleconference to underscore our union's call for the U.S. government to defend U.S. trade agreements. The briefing went very well and prompted news stories in outlets including the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the Chicago Business Journal, and The Street. As Captain Capt will report to you, our union also continues its outreach to new pilots and students of all ages to attract the best and brightest to the profession. So ALPA is making its first appearance in more than 10 years at Oshkosh this summer. 10 years we've been gone, we're coming back. Coordinating this effort is ALPA's Professional Development Group. ALPA will have a booth in the Education Exhibit Building, and we're also going to host several evening events in the area. Please spread the word to your pilots. I know a lot of our members attend. We want to interact with as many ALPA members as possible during the 7-day air show. If your MEC desires to support this event, please see the PDG chairman. Richard, if you please stand. I know you're in the room someplace. Please see the PDG chairman, Richard Swindell, while you're here. All right, I've droned on, but I have a few closing remarks. In 1960, then Senator John F. Kennedy spoke to workers in Detroit saying, I quote, Our unions have brought millions of men and women together, made them members one of another, and given them common tools for a common goal. Like the Halligan, oh, Bill, you didn't hold it? Like the Halligan, ALPA pilots and staff draw on decades of experience to develop just the right tool for the job. The accomplishments I've mentioned today, your accomplishments, demonstrate the power of ALPA. The 55,000 members of this union know the tremendous value of ALPA membership because it's all we need to carry. Thank you.